Okay, let's talk about the lesson plan in general. I just want to give you my thoughts of what I'm looking for and what I'm expecting. This applies whether you're in 278, where we are working through the lesson plan to create one lesson plan at the end, one component at a time, basically. Or you're in 277, where you're going to crank out 5 lesson plans and you've kind of forgotten the nuts and bolts of the lesson plan that we did in 278. So first, I want you to think of the lesson plan as it's a tool for you. It's a tool written by you for you. It's like a roadmap, right? Especially in secondary, where, in the heat of the moment when you're delivering your instruction, you want to deliver it consistently across class periods, right? So your lesson plan serves as a roadmap, a reference, a guide, okay? So number one, you're the audience. You're writing it for yourself. So let's write it in a way that is beneficial to you to use in the heat of the moment, right? So I find that like bullets are a good format to use, and you should get rid of the fluff, like the teacher will, and things like that. Like, get rid of language that is a given, right? You wrote it, you know what you're going to do. Omit that kind of language, because if you write your components in first person narrative paragraph form, I mean, how useful is that going to be for you in a class period to reference, right? So think about it in that context. Now, what we're doing here, in a learning experience, is creating well-designed instruction and doing it at the highest level that we can. So I'm not trying to imply that I think you are going to create this detailed of a lesson every single day of your teaching career. I get that. But just because that's not the case doesn't mean you shouldn't know how to develop instruction in all of the forms that we talked about earlier, but also to create an aligned, detailed lesson plan. You need to know how to do that. Okay, so that's what we're doing. So I'm going to ask you to develop your lesson in 278 and your lesson plans in 277 with a level of detail that I say, think of it like this. If a well-qualified person came into your class and picked up your lesson plan, can they implement it, right? So write it as you're the audience, but put the detail in there that it could be implemented by someone qualified. Like, literally, it's here. Not all this stuff that's in your head, right? In a quick bullet that doesn't really contain, if it's referencing a PowerPoint, reference where it's located, how to locate it, procedurally, steps of instruction that you're going to break down. Put it all in there. Think about key questions. Think about questioning as a strategy and not just something we do, right? So when you're going through the design process and you're thinking about, you have this vision of how it's going to unfold, you want to capture that in your lesson plan. So what key questions do you want to ask consistently across class periods, right? Write those down. So that's the approach that I want you to take in developing your lesson plan. Now, in general, Madeline Hunter designed this lesson plan, and it's been adapted over the years, and additional components have been added. But when you're implementing the lesson, all these instructional components, the input and the modeling and guided practice and independent practice and all these kinds of things, they're not delivered, in isolated components, right? When you're delivering it, you're going to cross over and there'll be some modeling and the input and all that kind of stuff. Totally get that. But I think when she broke this lesson plan down and had all these individual components, the purpose was so that you thought about each element of the lesson plan design so that you didn't omit something. So yes, when you're implementing it, there's going to be a lot of crossover, some guided practice right after modeling, and then back to input, those kinds of things. That's the practical nature of it. But in designing it, you're designing it in isolation because you're thinking about each component and putting your best into it. So think about that, the audience. Put the detail in there that somebody could pick it up and implement it. Right? Put it all in there, all the detail, but omit all the fluff that's not needed, like, teacher will kind of stuff. That's my thoughts. I just wanted you to hear that. Thank you.